People always say that you can't love another person until you learn to love yourself. And for years, I thought that was just some kind of cliche. But eventually, I realized my problem wasn't that I didn't love myself. It was that I hated myself. And honestly, that hatred almost killed me. At my heaviest, I weighed 551 pounds. But this isn't really a story about weight loss. It's a story about what happens when someone slowly learns how to live again. So come along with me to Chuckadelphia. Let's go. I didn't always understand how or why I let myself get to 551 pounds. For a long time, I thought it was just about food. But honestly, it was deeper than that. Let's say back around 2014, after a really painful breakup, something inside of me just kind of shut down. I was told, I don't see a future with you. And instead of fighting back, I basically crawled into my apartment and disappeared. I stopped imagining a future with myself. I stopped going out. I stopped taking pictures. I stopped wanting people to look at me. Honestly, sometimes I didn't even want to look at myself. I could barely even muster the strength to look at the mirror, you know? I buried myself in work, fast food, pizza, Chinese food, not living. Every Monday became, I'll start tomorrow, and tomorrow became next week, and then next month, and I just never started. For years, I thought I just lacked discipline, but looking back, I realize now I didn't just dislike myself, I hated myself. And if you hate yourself, how can you take care of yourself? How can you even possibly take care of another person? One day, my mom asked me to walk around the block with her, Frankie, and Charlie. And honestly, I could barely do it. I made it maybe halfway around the block. She was walking ahead of me like a racehorse, like a bat out of Hades. And I was struggling just to move. Imagine that. I was, 46, and I couldn't keep up with my 72-year-old mother and the bulldog. Yeah, pretty tough, huh? And later, she told me something I'll never forget. She said, if you won't do this for yourself, do it for Frankie and Charlie. And then she said, if you hate me so much. And I remember saying, I don't hate you. I hate myself. I hate myself for allowing myself to get to this point and not knowing how to get out of it. Not knowing where to start. And losing that feeling of wanting to change. In a way, it was like I had accepted my own fate as doom, and I didn't want to leave. And I hated myself for it. And it hurt because that was the first time I ever told myself that I hated myself. Maybe I had always felt it, but to hear it and to say it to someone else, someone that cares about you, like your mom, someone that brought you into this world, it takes it to another level. And it was so hard. That was the first time I realized that maybe I couldn't fix this alone. That's when I finally started getting real help. Nutritional guidance, emotional support, structure, accountability, and honestly, for the first time in years, I felt like maybe there was actually a way out. Essentially, I stopped looking for miracle solutions. There was no magic pill, no overnight transformation, just small steps, over and over again. At first, exercise was brutal, but, it was hard for me to move, so I started swimming. It released a lot of pressure from my joints, and I was able to move again. And at first, 5 laps became 10, and then 10 became 20, and then 30. And eventually, I was swimming a mile, and then 2,000 meters. And I realized it wasn't about being the fastest person in the pool. It was about how far I could go without giving up. And that translated into other areas. I started walking more. First I walked to the corner, then around the block. Then I started walking around the neighborhood, then a mile, then 2 miles. I started getting better. And it also occurred to me that it wasn't necessarily about maybe I, would be looking better at first. That wasn't the issue. It was about feeling better. And I can't tell you how great it felt to be moving again, to feel alive again. Little by little, something started changing. Not just physically, but emotionally. At one point in my life, I was embarrassed even to walk into stores. I'd take my mom to the store and I just didn't want to go inside. Part of it was because I was so big and I didn't want to move around and, feel the pain. But there was also emotional pain. I didn't want to go inside and have people laugh at me and have kids point fingers at me. I just didn't want to deal with it. But now, I walk into stores even without thinking about it. I love life again. I love movement again. I love making people laugh again. I love connecting with people again. And maybe the biggest thing is that I finally feel emotionally present again. For years, I felt emotionally shut down, but now I actually feel like I can share my heart again. And honestly, maybe that's what healing really is. Not becoming perfect, not suddenly loving everything about yourself, but slowly learning that maybe you deserve to live too. So, maybe someday love will find me. Maybe not. But for the first time in my life, I know who I am. I know what I bring to the table. I know I'm worthy of love. And more importantly, I don't hate myself anymore. And honestly, while I may not completely love myself yet, I actually think I'm a pretty cool dude. And that changed everything. Thanks for listening to my story. I really appreciate it. Carpe diem, my friends. Ciao, ciao.